Long shadows stretched across the church floor, cast by the morning sun filtering through St. Michael's stained glass windows. The light, fractured into shards of blue and gold, danced across the polished white coffin. Michael Sullivan stood alone, his fingers trembling as he adjusted the tiny blue dinosaur perched on top. Tommy had always insisted on keeping its shiny surface spotless, his velociraptor. Not just any dinosaur, but his dinosaur. The carefully arranged white roses surrounding the casket looked pristine, but Michael knew they were nothing more than lies. Tommy had been allergic. Michael's throat was raw from hours of silence. His son would have hated these flowers. His phone vibrated in his pocket, a reminder of something Lily should have handled, if she had cared enough to be there. The screen lit up with her message. "Sorry, I can't make it to the service. Important business meeting in Seattle. I love you both. Give Tommy a kiss for me." His grip tightened around the device. He had already seen the email confirming her flight. Seattle. Another lie added to her growing collection. By their shared story, she was supposed to be in Maui. Most likely, she was watching the sunrise from the balcony of some luxury resort, sipping a cocktail, while their son lay cold in his coffin. A quiet voice at his side broke through his thoughts. "We should begin." The funeral director's words pulled him back into the moment. Michael nodded, following the procession into the church, his movements mechanical. The room filled gradually. Tommy's kindergarten teacher, neighbors who had watched him chase butterflies in their yards, distant relatives who had barely known him. Faces blurred together, all wearing the same expressions of sorrow and sympathy. His mother appeared beside him, reaching for his hand. "The flowers are lovely," she murmured, then hesitated. "But Michael." Tommy's eyes were always red and swollen from. "I know," he cut in softly. She glanced around before whispering, "Where is she?" Michael's jaw clenched. "Having a business meeting. In Seattle." His mother's lips pressed into a thin line, her expression unreadable. "She should have been here." Michael turned away, unable to answer. He already knew the truth. Lily had never been there. Not when Tommy got sick. Not during the long nights in sterile hospital rooms. Not when their son had wept for her, too young to understand why his mother was always somewhere else. A small figure approached him, a boy, clutching a hand-drawn picture. Tommy's best friend. Michael took the paper carefully, his chest tightening as he studied the crayon lines. Two stick figures, side by side, playing with dinosaurs. Beneath them, the words wobbled in unsteady letters. "Best friends for eternity." "Thank you," Michael murmured, his voice nearly breaking. His phone buzzed again. Another message. "Long meetings today. Call as soon as I'm able." Just like before. Just like every hospital visit, every endless night spent alone. Lies, wrapped neatly in excuses. The priest stepped forward, but there was no prayer book in his hands. "Shall we begin?" The ceremony passed in a haze, hymns, prayers, speeches. Michael moved through the motions automatically, rising and sitting when required, nodding at words he barely registered. But her seat remained empty. More buzzing from his phone. More lies. The priest's voice echoed through the church, speaking of solace and God's embrace, but Michael barely heard him. His thoughts were trapped in the past, in that final request from his son. "Mommy is working hard, buddy." Another lie. Lily's sister read a poem about angels. The words tasted bitter in Michael's mouth. When his brother spoke, recalling Tommy's contagious laughter and his love for dinosaurs, Michael managed to smile. Barely. At the graveside, they handed him a white rose. He stared at it, at the delicate petals that meant nothing, at the perfect mask of grief he had forced himself to wear. Instead, he stepped forward and placed something else atop the casket. The blue velociraptor. Beside it, Tommy's favorite book, The Big Book of Dinosaurs. His phone vibrated again. "Michael, I'm thinking about you. Call me later." He glanced at the freshly turned earth, at the grave that would soon swallow his son. Month after month, he had swallowed the bitterness of her betrayal. Collected proof. Recorded her lies. Planned, in silence. She believed she was starting a new life. She thought she was safe in paradise, wrapped in the arms of another man. She had no idea. His mother touched his arm gently. "Come with us." Michael shook his head. He knelt one last time, resting the unopened white rose on the grave. She will regret missing today. With each step away from the tomb, he felt himself shifting, returning to the man he used to be. The man she had underestimated. Lily believed her world was untouched, that she had moved on, that her betrayal would remain buried. But with a few keystrokes, he could turn her paradise into ruin. The time for mourning would come later. 3 months earlier, the cracks in her carefully constructed facade had begun to show.
It was a Tuesday night in March.
A pot of mac and cheese bubbled on the stove as Michael sat at the kitchen table, helping Tommy with a dinosaur puzzle. The boy frowned, holding up a piece with tiny T-Rex claws. "This doesn't fit. Try flipping it around, buddy." At 7:45 p.m., Michael checked his watch.
She was late. Again. Footsteps on the stairs.
Lily swept into the kitchen wearing a sleek black dress he had never seen before, carrying a polished briefcase, her perfume unfamiliar. Michael stirred the mac and cheese. "Working late again?" She barely glanced at him, adjusting her reflection in the microwave door. "The Morrison merger is killing me. Johnson needs these reports by morning."
A neutral voice. A calm tone.
But Michael was already counting the inconsistencies.
The dress. The perfume.
The hair, styled too perfectly for a long day at the office. Her voice sharpened slightly. "What does that mean?"
Nothing.
He turned off the burner. "Tommy's dinner is ready." At the table, Tommy's eyes lit up. "Mommy, will you read my new dinosaur book with me after dinner?"
Lily sighed. "Not tonight, sweetheart. I have to leave soon."
His small face crumpled. "But Mommy..." "Do not wait up," she cut in, already moving toward the door.
Michael's jaw clenched.
"When will you be home?" "I'll check in when I get back." She kissed Tommy's forehead and was gone.
The door clicked shut.
Michael counted to 10, then pulled out his phone. A banking app.
A recent charge. Sephora. $200.
Perfume and makeup she had supposedly worn to work. Later that night, after reading Tommy 3 bedtime stories and tucking him in with 2 glasses of water, Michael sat in his office. He opened their bank statements. Credit card bills. Lingerie store purchases.
Hotel bar tabs.
Dinner reservations for 2. His mouse hovered over their phone carrier website. One click.
Just one.
Did he really want to know? He needed to know. Her iPad sat on the desk.
Password? Tommy's birthday.
Hundreds of messages. His gut twisted as he scrolled through the conversations, the photos.
The timestamps.
They matched every late meeting, every absence.
A text from the night before. Fantastic.
Looking forward to next week's meeting in Seattle. It'll be perfect. No interruptions.
Michael's vision blurred. Seattle.
The week of her supposed business trip to Hawaii. Michael took screenshots of everything, the messages, the photos, the evidence of her betrayal. He sent them to a private email, a vault of truth she would never see coming. Then, with meticulous precision, he erased every trace of his investigation. Every search history entry, every accessed file, every login. When he was done, he walked to the bathroom and vomited. In the weeks that followed, the ripple effect of Lily's lies began to spread. As friends discovered the depth of her deceit, her once thriving social circle crumbled. People whispered, messages went unanswered, invitations ceased. The woman who had once stood at the center of every gathering found herself on the outskirts, abandoned by those who had believed in her. Even in the midst of Tommy's illness, her focus had never wavered from herself. Michael was reminded of this the day his phone vibrated with a text from her, one of the few she had sent during their son's final days. Not a question about Tommy. Not a message of concern or love. Instead, a plea of a different kind. "My credit card isn't working. The hotel's saying our shared account is empty. What's happening? Are you doing this? Is there an emergency?" Michael stared at the screen, emotionless.
He didn't reply.
Instead, he forwarded a set of damning photos to another recipient, her lover's wife. Because Michael had learned months ago that the betrayal ran even deeper. The man Lily had risked everything for wasn't just unfaithful to his own wife. He had been sleeping with multiple women, including Michael's wife. A fitting irony. His phone buzzed again, but this time with a different update, one far more satisfying. "Michael, the audit team's preliminary report is damning. The legal department is launching an official investigation." Michael glanced at his watch. Time for Phase 3. With a calm, steady hand, he opened his email and began forwarding hospital records. Appointments missed, visits skipped, moments of pain and fear where Tommy had needed his mother, but she had been somewhere else. Every documented proof of her absence, every night she had chosen her lover over her dying son. He sent them to her friends.
To her relatives.
To every person who had ever asked, "Where's Lily?"
And then he waited. Calls flooded in.
Messages poured through.
Co-workers. Neighbors.
The people who had attended Tommy's funeral. The people who had sent condolences. Everyone now saw the truth laid bare, and still, Lily refused to answer them. But she answered Michael. Her face flashed across his screen in an incoming call. The first time she had dared to speak to him directly. He let the phone ring once. Twice. Then, with quiet satisfaction, he picked up. Her voice was ragged, panicked. "What have you done?" Michael leaned back in his chair, his tone eerily calm. "I revealed the truth. Something you should try sometime." "Michael, please." He cut her off, his voice dropping to something cold and sharp. "Tell me, how does Maui compare to Seattle?" "Take a deep breath. I want you to really think about that. You don't understand." "No," he said, his voice now steady steel. "I do understand. I've understood every single lie for months. Every time you looked me in the eyes and chose to deceive me. Every night Tommy cried for you in that hospital bed while you were in a hotel with him." Silence. He heard her breath hitch. "I can explain." "You missed his funeral," Michael continued, ignoring her plea. "Because you were on vacation in Hawaii. Meanwhile, your lover's wife and your parents were laying flowers on your son's grave." Her voice cracked. "Michael, stop. You're ruining my life," she sobbed. Michael let out a slow, measured breath. "No, Lily. You destroyed your own life. I'm just making sure everyone knows exactly who you are." A notification popped up on his screen. Her employer had taken action, suspended pending an investigation. No pay. No more comfortable position built on falsehoods. Michael glanced at Tommy's best friend, who had stayed by his side throughout the funeral, a quiet presence of innocence in a world so cruel. The boy studied the messages over Michael's shoulder, brows furrowed. "Trouble in paradise?" the boy asked softly. Michael smirked. "Watch how quickly he abandons her once the money runs out." A new message buzzed through. This time, from her lover's wife. "Thank you for being honest with me. I've frozen our accounts and contacted my attorney." Michael's gaze flicked back to his screen. Another update from his private investigator in Maui. A fresh set of images. Her lover, once so confident, so smug, was now storming out of the hotel, suitcase dragging behind him. His face twisted in frustration, his departure quick and unforgiving. The calls from Lily had slowed to a trickle, but each one carried the same thread of desperation. One by one, every connection she had carefully curated was severing. The final one came just as the last of her friends learned the truth. Rachel. Her best friend. The woman she had once trusted more than anyone. And now, even she was gone.